It was not a great Sinner, and imagine, he won a Grand Slam. This Sinner, if you compare his usual level in the last months to his level during the Wimbledon, I would say he was at 65–70%. I felt that he was unconfident. Yes, he had a very big disappointment in Roland Garros, but it's not that he didn't play well, and before that he won a number of matches without losing one. So he should be super confident. In the final, he missed so many forehands and he was moving backwards. Usually he always goes forward. On the returning side, he was not as good by far. Even though he was very average, I think it's going to be very useful for the future for him to know that he can win a Grand Slam being at 70% in terms of quality of tennis.
There's a version of heartbreak that either breaks you or rebuilds you into something sharper. Jannik Sinner just proved, for the second year running, which one he's built for. On Sunday, under the grey-then-golden light of centre court, the world number one clawed his way past Alexander Zverev in a four-set war, 6–7, 7–6, 6–3, 6–4, to defend his Wimbledon crown. It's Grand Slam title number 5 for the Italian, and it arrived exactly one tournament after his season nearly cracked wide open in Paris, where a stunning second-round exit at Roland Garros snapped a 30-match winning streak that had made him look untouchable. Sound familiar? It should, because this is the second consecutive year Sinner has walked off a Parisian clay court wounded, only to turn around and lift a trophy in London weeks later. Last summer it was 3 championship points evaporating against Carlos Alcaraz in the French Open final. This year it was a shock early loss. Different flavor of pain, same response, get to Wimbledon and get better. You never know how many times you will be able to come back on Sunday, Sinner said afterward. So I never take things for granted. That's not a throwaway line. That's a man who has learned, twice now, that grass forgives what clay does not, and he is not about to waste the lesson. But make no mistake, Zverev did not hand him anything. The German showed up looking like a man determined to finally get his hands on this trophy. He leaned on that howitzer serve of his all-match, and in the opening set he did something nobody had managed against Sinner in ages. He won it, taking a tense tiebreaker and snapping a run of 14 straight sets he dropped to his rival. For a moment, centre court had to wonder if this was the day the script flipped. It wasn't. Sinner regrouped and seized the second set tiebreaker, and from there the match turned into something closer to a chess match than a slugfest. Neither man could find a break point until the third set, more than 2.5 hours into the final. That's how tight this was. That's how badly both men wanted it. And then, right in the middle of that pivotal third-set game, the match nearly took a frightening turn. Chasing down a Sinner drop shot, Zverev's leg gave way behind the baseline as he tried to change direction, and he grabbed at his right knee in obvious discomfort. Sinner immediately came around the net to check on him. Zverev waved it off and played on, but something wasn't quite right. Moments later, he netted a forehand, handing Sinner the first break of the match and a 5–3 lead he wouldn't relinquish. Sinner closed out the set, then kept the pressure on through the fourth, riding the advantage all the way to match point, where a forehand winner ripped down the line ended it and sent the champion crashing onto his back on the grass in celebration. The numbers tell you just how complete the performance was. 58 winners to Zverev's 4–9, but the separator was control, just 25 unforced errors from Sinner against 4–5 from his opponent. He's now beaten Zverev 10 straight times. And with this win, he becomes only the 10th man in the Open era to successfully defend a Wimbledon singles title. That's a list reserved for legends. It has been an amazing final once again, Sinner said afterward, crediting Zverev, who he calls by his nickname, Sasha, for pushing him to his limit. What struck people most, though, wasn't the trophy talk. It was how Sinner chose to frame the whole year, disappointment included. There is no failure if you don't win a Grand Slam, he said. Now I have 5 in my whole life. We talk about 5 Grand Slams, but that's 5 days out of so many other days. These are very, very rare days. It's the kind of perspective that doesn't usually come from a 23-year-old sitting on 5 majors. It sounds like someone who has already made peace with losing, because he understands winning was never guaranteed in the first place. For Zverev, this was supposed to be part 2 of a special summer. He'd already claimed the French Open last month, and a Wimbledon title would have completed a career-defining double. Instead, at 29 years old, he leaves London with something almost as valuable as silverware: belief. "This is the first time that I believe I can actually win this trophy," Zverev admitted, reflecting on the tournament. He called the stretch an amazing 2 months, even in defeat. "That's not nothing, coming from a player who has spent years being told he doesn't have the mentality for the biggest stages." Paris said otherwise. Wimbledon came agonizingly close to saying it twice. So where does this leave the sport? Sinner now owns the mental edge in this rivalry that so many champions talk about but few can actually sustain. The ability to turn a gut punch into fuel, twice, on tennis's biggest stage. Zverev, meanwhile, has evidence that the ceiling he once doubted might finally be within reach. 2 players walked off center court on Sunday. One left with a trophy and a streak that keeps rewriting history books. The other left with something that, given time, might be just as dangerous. The belief that next time, the final line could belong to him. Because in this sport, disappointment rarely stays disappointment for long. Sometimes it's just the setup for the next great chapter.